Assalamualaikum and greeting to my supervisor, Dr. Remy, and panel, Dr. Effendi, Encik Akramin, and Encik Sharizan Othman. Today, I will present about my final year project, which is the effect of office workstation arrangement toward non-value-added activity using lean approach. They spend over 50% of their waking hour at workplace, and the environment will influence their performance of work. Lean Office is applications of Lean philosophy to front-end process, a systematic arrangement of office amenities. It is arrangement of staff, machine, equipment, furniture, and other facilities within limit available floor space. Manufacturing developed a concept of Lean, identifying 7 categories of process waste or mudah. The waste are transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overprocessing, overproduction, and defect. The objectives of this study are: first, to study the work pattern of UTeM administration office staff to establish significant differences with regard to improved productivity using Lean approach. Second is to design a layout segment office workstation occupied based on their work pattern to reduce non-value-added activities. And lastly is to demonstrate and implement the arrangement of office workstation arrangement layout that contribute to improve the productivity of UTeM. Lastly is to demonstrate and implement the arrangement of office workstation arrangement layout that contribute to improve the productivity of UTeM administration office staff. The scope are divided into 4, which is process, paradigm, place, and productivity. The process is interaction between different departments in the office relate to the specific work progress undertaken by individual or staff in office environment. Second is paradigm. It's related to organization culture and importance to establish office staff works and their belief value. Third is place. It has a fixed shape office and limited space. Lastly is productivity. To measure the productivity linked to worker work pattern and identify the non-value added activity. Non-value added activity is referred to mudi in Japanese term, which is unnecessary activity. Next is problem statement. To analyze directly the individual areas such as workstation area, personal storage, feelings of privacy in office environment. Next is the office concept in such general storage and facility to undertake work tasks away from desk through formal, informal, and quiet area. Make the best use of available space. And lastly is to design and produce layout based on work style pattern of office UTeM staff that work in selected office in UTeM campus. The next chapter is methodology. The flowchart of this project are to gather input data through flow of interaction of staff, activity of relationship between staff and staff and office amenities. Next is the relationship diagram through space requirement and space available. Next, to develop a layout, and lastly, to evaluate. In order to achieve the objective 1, 2, 3 in this project, the theoretical flow of methodology is used. First is to identify problem and gather required data. Next is to generate alternative of objective 1, 2, and 3. Next is result and conclusion. Is to generate the alternative of objective 1. First is questionnaire, which consists of 5 sections. Section A, B, C, D, and E. Next is semi-interview, and lastly observation, to classify the frequent work tasks by UTeM staff on selected administration's office UTeM. Next is to generate alternative for objective 2, which to design the layout segment. In order to achieve a productivity in of office, we need to consider a physical environment and behavior environment. But in this study, we only consider the physical environment such as the air quality, the noise, the office arrangement, the furniture, temperature, office color. And lastly is to generate the alternative for objective 3. But due to COVID-19, there are some limitations to demonstrate and implement the layout segment. Next, we proceed with result. We start with the questionnaire result. Part A, demographic information of respondent. On the left side, there is a pie chart consists of 70% of secretary and 30% of clerk respondent. Next, on the right side is the 3 main job of secretary or clerk. As we can see, the top 3 job scope of clerk or secretary are report and briefing, documentation and filing, and meeting. On part B, which asks about physical factor environment of office. On top, as we can see, to select 3 main factors of conducive office environment. The top 3, the main factor are temperature, air quality, and office arrangement. You can see on the left side table, it concerns about workplace experience. Out of 20 respondents, most of them agreed on the workplace experience. On the left side table, it concerns about group work. Same goes to the left side table. Most of the respondents agreed on the group work. It questions about characteristic of work environment. On the top part, it questions about type of office that secretary or clerk prefer. Most of the secretary or clerk prefer open office. Next, on the left pie chart, as you can see, if you select open office, what type of open office did you prefer? Most of the respondents prefer thin pot open office. As you can see on the right side, the table is concerned about the current workplace of secretary or clerk. Most of the secretary and clerk agreed on the question. On part D, is asking about the frequent interactions of secretary or clerk in office. On the top part, as you can see, the question is asking about the 3 most frequent locations in office that secretary or clerk prefer. As we can see, the top 3 is the cubicle of secretary and clerk, the meeting room, and discussion room. As you can see, on the left side of the pie chart, is asking about the approximate time spent of secretary or clerk spent with office staff. Most of the respondents answer 20 to 30 hour time they spend with office staff. Next is approximate time they spend at office. Most of the respondents answer 40 to 55 hours, and none of the respondents answer more than 55 hours in office. Next is question 16, asking about percentage of work time of secretary and clerk spent on the following location. Most of the secretary and clerk spend 60% of their time on individual workspace and on their department, and 20% of secretary and clerk are traveling within office. Next, question 17 is asking about the total time that secretary and clerk spend on the following activities. Most of the secretary and clerk are spending their time 80% on working alone, unscheduled, face-to-face interaction, and delay communication such as email. And only 20% of them are communicating through phone call, conference call, video call, and text message. And last section in questionnaire are factor affect the productivity. On the left and right side, as you can see, 100% of the total respondent is agreed on the productivity is important in office and environment of office will affect the productivity. Last two questions in the questionnaire are 3 factors that affect productivity. As you can see, the opinion of secretary and clerk in terms of affect productivity are temperature, managerial, communication, and privacy. All respondents agreed that arrangement in office can improve productivity and productive office environment will help worker work effectively. After completing the objective 1, which consists of questionnaire, semi-interview, and observation, we continue with objective 2, which to design a layout segment office workstation occupy based on their work pattern to reduce non-value-added activity. As we can see, these are the actual and current layout segment that our secretary and clerk are working with. After taking consider of 5S lean tool office and reduce the non-value added activity and studying the work pattern of secretary and clerk, we know that the 3 main jobs of secretary and clerk are documentation and filing, report briefing, and meeting. So know that the 3 most frequent locations that secretary and clerk spend is their cubicle, meeting room, and discussion room. After taking consider the work pattern of secretary and clerk, lean office 2, which is 5S, and to reduce the non-value added activity, even though the after is not really much changes, as we can see, here are on the right wing of the department, it has a bilik document, but there is not appear a bilik document on the left side of the wing, but it has a meeting room. We know that the frequent location of secretary work is one of it is a meeting room. So secretary need a document to enter the meeting room. So the cubicle, within cubicle and meeting room is near. That is a value added. But in order to secretary to pick a document in a bilik document, it's from here, from the left wing to the right wing. So that is a non-value added activities. So I merge the bilik file, bilik document, and photocopy to ease the secretary and clerk and list its movement. Last but not least is conclusion. First, objective 1 and 2 is comply to obtain objective 3, which to obtain total productive office environment, physical and behavior office environment need to be considered. And productivity is measured through reduction of movement of secretary or clerk in order to interact with staff and amenities. The value of customer that can be identified in this project are competent, reliability, accuracy, responsive, courtesy, communication, credibility, and understanding is taken consider. And lastly, recommendation. In order to achieve a productivity, we need to consider behavior office environment such as emotional, light, and noise. And lastly, other lean tool can be applied such as to standardize. Thank you.